Hi, everybody. Got a great show for you today. In studio with us is Dr. Kelly Neff. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Deborah.
You wrote the book Sex Positive. Why are millennials having less sex and more orgasms? But that's not all. Will robots make physical sex a thing of the past? We got to dive deep into this. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Wow. So why did you write this book? You're a social psychologist, author, professor, talk show host.
Yeah.
Why the book?
I wrote this book because I'm on the cusp of being a millennial myself. I'm on the zennial cusp, which is kind of like people born around 1980. We spent half of our lives with technology and half of it without. So I feel like I am uniquely positioned to kind of comment as a psychologist and social psychologist and someone who grew up right in that range on the way that the future of relationships is evolving because I've been living through it.
So you live through the whole app thing. I mean, everybody does
Yeah.
apps now. You could be 80
Oh,
years
yeah.
old looking for somebody
Totally.
to date on an app, right?
Totally.
What do you think of apps?
I'm not a big fan because
Ah.
of there's actually been some psychological research showing that they are damaging to people's self-esteem. A 2017 study in the Journal of Body Image found that of over 1,300 college-age students who used apps, or college-age students, the one who used apps had the lowest measures of self-esteem, including body shaming, internalizing society's body norms, and a host of other negative mental health outcomes.
I would imagine. It would stress me out
Dude.
deeply if nobody picked me. And I'm thinking, wait a
Well,
minute.
and that's the thing. So it's even worse for men. Why? Because
Ah.
men, like throw crap at the wall, see what sticks. So men
Yeah.
will try to match with everyone. And so they got
Oh.
rejected like 20 times in an hour instead of, say, 2 times in an hour at a bar. And social rejection is social rejection. It causes pain, and our body can't tell the difference.
Well, you also can't really fully describe who you are in an app.
Exactly.
You know, like
exactly.
I love beach walks. Who doesn't like a beach walk, right?
Yeah.
And I have friends who've gone, look, this has happened to everybody, but I have friends who've gone on there and, looking for a nice guy. And then they show up and he's the one who's 200 pounds heavier than his picture. And it's like, come on, dude, represent yourself right,
It's tough, a couple pictures in a bio that nobody reads.
Never.
It's basically branding.
Yeah.
We're basically selling, and that's what we're learning to do in the digital age is we're selling our identities, for likes. It's not for money. Sometimes it is, but often it's just for likes. And so it takes away the authentic ability to really connect with someone.
So, what about millennials? You're saying here that they're having less sex. Why is it? Is it because of the whole craze to swipe right and left?
We're becoming more digisexual, and I also want to say that millennials is a massive group of millions of people. So
Yeah.
I'm not here trying to say that I know what all millennials
No,
want.
it's ridiculous.
Because it's just looking. But I did analyze a lot of research and social trends when I was writing the book, and one of the things we're finding is that we are just as content getting off by ourselves. We have porn, erotica, amazing sex toys, sexting, we can send nudes. So it's kind of like we don't need sex as much compared to our parents' generation. At our age, we are actually having intercourse an average of 9 times less per year than our parents' generation, the boomers, did when they were our age. And it's because we don't feel like we need anyone to help us get off.
Yeah, but you know what? Getting off by yourself versus having somebody to hold is a whole different experience.
It is, particularly for people who have a physical touch love language.
I think I have that.
Yeah,
I
do
like
too.
to touch, and no matter what, is it a back rub? Is it whatever? But sex just for sex. We were talking about this on the phone, right?
Yeah.
I know for me, I can only use myself as an example.
Yes.
Sex just for sex sake is just a little I like to have a relationship
Yeah.
with somebody.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit. I mean, I've been married forever, so forget that. But you know what I'm talking about.
I think that what's interesting is I think just the idea of sex is changing. So we're having like cuddle parties now where everyone keeps their clothes on and just hugs and
Okay,
they
look.
get that vibe without ever it's intimacy without like the actual intercourse.
I got Tony frowning. Okay, listen, you've got to put me in touch with the Cuddle Party because I want to
yeah.
have them on my show. I have read about this thing and I've seen the parties, pictures of the parties, and you've got a whole pile of people laying there on the floor hugging each other, and I'm like, dude, how are you not getting off? Just hugging some lady, or you know what I'm talking about.
But again, it's that
Weird.
feeling of warmth and intimacy. I actually just, with my company Awake in the Night, we just threw a cuddle party on Saturday night in Denver.
Why didn't I know?
But it was a downtime. It was a music event at a venue, and we filled the floor of the venue with mattress pads, and everybody just laid there in onesies and listened to music and hugged, and people were asleep. People were massaging each other, and at a venue at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and we did not meet the bar minimum because no one wanted to drink. drink. They just wanted to lounge and like have these connections.
Does
So
it ever go like further? I would have a hard time just hugging you out. Just,
I
hey,
know,
here we
right?
go.
Well,
Right?
you know, as long as there's consent, because that's the big thing right now too, is you can't just touch someone and, you know, think it's okay. They have to say like, hey, yes, you can touch me. Or is it okay if I touch you? Is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I kiss you? So, you know, we, especially in nightlife scenarios where people could be intoxicated or it's dark, we want to make
Right.
sure that there is that consent if it does go any further.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
kind of like the cuddle party idea.
I do
really
too. I do too.
There's something sweet about it. I've got to get these people on my show because I need to learn
Yeah.
more about it.
Yeah, and there's professional cuddlers, you know, who like they make, you know, as much as a therapist. Just someone comes to their office. Yeah, this is a real thing. This is a real thing.
Dude.
So and I believe taking it back to kind of the digital age, we're searching for intimacy because we're not getting it. Because all of
Why?
our
Tell me why.
well, all of our relationships are now mitigated by technological influences. So we're texting, we're typing. You know, we're losing that body image and that eye contact. So we're still searching for that intimacy. So we're going to find ways to get it.
Okay, question. Is it the same as small little towns versus a big city like LA? Because I have college age kids and they're not
Yeah.
necessarily interested in coming back to the big city of LA. They're like, we want to go somewhere where we drive down Main Street and we kind of
Yeah,
know everybody, which I
that's
thought
it.
was very interesting. Are they connecting more in those kinds of towns? You think?
I don't know, but I would hope so. Society has become, you know, globalization is increasing, so people are moving more and more towards larger cities. So these kind of metropolises that are starting to spring up, where everyone's in high-rise apartments and, you know, going to and from work. And I like the idea of the like small town. I just also think that like whatever we grew up with, we want the opposite, so we polarize.
Oh, it's so
You know,
true.
It's
I'm
just
like,
that's just like I don't know if it's human nature. I'm sure there's a psychological phenomenon. I just don't know what
I
it
think
is.
you're right about that because I came from like sort of kind of like boring suburban New Jersey. And then I come here and it's so exciting. I raised 3 kids
Yes.
here and they're like, ew, we're going somewhere. It's like,
Yes.
wait a minute. So I know what you're talking about.
It's
yeah.
and that's part of our, I think, journey as humans is to, and I'm glad you brought this up too, because it's our conditioning, right? It's our upbringing, our parents, our families, our religious institutions. They teach us something about ourselves, and then we want to go out into the world and stake a claim that that doesn't define us and this is who we are. And that's very much what we're seeing kind of with looking at sex and relationship and sex positive.
Well, we know, of course, that it differs depending upon if you're a religious person or not. There's so many people who still say no sex until marriage. I got to respect that.
Sure.
It wasn't my story, but I got to respect that. And then there's people who have multiple partners and because they need the physical release. I mean, I guess we're all over the place, right? Especially in our society.
You know, well, I think it's a good thing. For me, the biggest thing about sex positive is that everybody should be able to express their sexuality how they want without fear or shame or judgment from the people in their lives and particularly from their partners, so long as everything is consenting, which is the only type of sex is consensual sex. Otherwise, it's rape, right? So as long as everyone is consenting, there really is... You should be able to, you know, express your desires and experiment if you want to, or you can be, you know, gender nonconforming or gay or pansexual or bisexual or whatever you want to be. It's about having healthy boundaries with yourself and healthy relationships with the people in your lives.
Why do we even have to define it? Why can't people just do what it is that they feel
Well, I think
that they should be doing in their lives? You know,
I think
whatever,
that's where
whoever
we're
they are.
going. I believe that's
Yeah.
where we're going. I think we have to define it now as a reaction to kind of the patriarchy and these outdated
And
systems.
stereotypes,
Yeah, exactly.
right? No,
Gender
I agree with
stereotypes.
you.
We kind of got to break through, and again, a lot of that religious kind of guilt and shame and conditioning. You know, we're in order to break through it, we have to be able to talk about it. And but I mean, even still, it's so contentious. You know, putting labels to these things, and I'm hesitant to do it, but I did it a little bit in the book to help get people on the same page, and people are still upset about it because, you know, they don't like being labeled. But our brain makes schemas that give us this heuristic so we can easily process and store information. So sometimes understanding like the differences between certain categories can be useful, but it certainly never has to define us. And I
What are you
think
talking about in
that's
specifics?
really important. Oh, so like if we're talking about different categories like transgender, gender nonconforming, genderqueer, all of that, you know, people will always feel that their category wasn't represented or that the categories have shifted. And right now, everybody really is kind of rewriting their own sexual story about identity. And when you're talking about people's identity, you know, this is a very personal and contentious thing. So I'm sitting here, I'm a cisgender woman, right? And so they're like, how dare you talk about gender identity? You have no, like, I've been attacked by trolls on the internet already, and the book hasn't even come out. It's pretty amazing.
That's incredible. Are you kidding
It's
me?
kind of incredible, but I expected it with a book like this.
I'll bet. Because
But,
it's very controversial,
But I also
right?
believe, like, you know, this is my story and my take on things, so it's not for everyone, and that's okay, you know. But I still encourage people to read the book and see how they feel about it.
What is sex positive?
Right. So sex positive is about having a healthy relationship with yourself sexually and with the people in your lives. Healthy boundaries, consent, respect. And I think one of the common misconceptions about sex positive is that you have to love sex or have sex all the time to be sex. You can be celibate or asexual and be sex positive.
Right, because I guess it's what you want to do.
Exactly.
That's,
so again,
that's positive to you to be celibate.
Exactly.
Whatever, not me.
Exactly. It's not about I think it's a common misconception too that, oh well, okay, you're sex positive. Well, you should have sex with me then if you're sex positive. Like, to use it in a coercive way to try to coerce people. That is like the opposite of sex positive.
I understand.
Yeah.
Would you say that more people are comfortable admitting that they are, let's say, bisexual, for example?
Well, absolutely. Because, I mean, well, actually, no. But yes, let's go back. Yes and no. Because I think, like, being bisexual or being homosexual, like, this battle has been fought and is still being fought, but there's a lot more visibility.
No doubt, yeah.
And support. Whereas sex positive it's been around for a long time, the concept, but I think it's only really, like, reaching into the mainstream. But, you know, yes and no, because I think, like, anytime a person's coming out about any aspect of their sexuality, it can be scary and it can be challenging. Even saying that you're sex positive can be scary and challenging because we live in what has traditionally been a very sex negative society.
You're right about that.
Yeah.
Robots. You're talking about robots making physical sex a thing of the past.
There's a lot of
Look, you got no fighting, right? I mean, you just look at your robot.
There's so many problems with it, but part of me does believe that this is where we're heading. You have these companies like Harmony AI, I believe, is one of them. They're making the animatronic heads they already make sex dolls, realistic sex dolls, and there's a whole subculture of humans, mostly cisgender men, but not all, who have these deep, intimate relationships with sex dolls for various reasons. And I talk a little bit about it in the book, but they're already making these heads that go on the dolls. So, like, for $50,000, I think, I mean, you know, maybe the price has gone down, so you can have, like, and they approach, you can customize their personality, you can, like, you know, actually.
Can they curse at you? Like,
right.
Fuck off.
Well, actually, some people have said it's important to have a resist function built in so that the doll's not just always ready for sex all the time, because it's, like, gives the wrong impression.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
But it makes sense, right? Because otherwise it's like, okay, well, if you have this doll that doesn't talk back, whose needs don't matter, who you can just turn off and who will always have sex with you, a lot of people are saying, well, then why do you need a partner? And what is it teaching us about
Sounds
love?
good to me.
I know.
You know,
no, it's
Can they make money, though? That's the whole
well,
thing.
that's the other thing. I know. Can they cook and clean too? Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that's really what they want. So, but again, what does it mean for love? Love is about compromise and struggle.
Yeah,
and
but I imagine
commitment.
people are falling in love with their dolls, right?
That's where I see this going. I mean, even the Pew Research Center said that by the end of the decade, people will be marrying sex dolls. It's buried in this report on AI from a couple years ago. I swear, and it actually, they predict that this will be happening by the end of the decade.
It has been rough enough to get people same-sex marriage. Could you imagine, like, having legislation to be able to marry a robotic doll? The day I see that.
Well, and ethically, there's so many complications too, right? It's like, at what point? Because at some point, the AI doll they'll be smarter than us. It'll be like Skynet, you know what I mean? So at what point, like, do they have rights? Do the dolls have rights, you know, to consent or to make choices?
Insane.
I know.
No, seriously.
There's like a whole line of
Could you imagine
thinking.
arguing with your sex doll? It's like, look, honey, not tonight. It's like, you've programmed me.
It
this
sounds
is
like
crazy.
a dystopian future, but is it that much of a stretch? When we already have these millions of people have downloaded virtual girlfriend and virtual boyfriend apps, where it's a chat bot that you talk to as if it's your partner, and people either say it's because they're lonely, it's because they want to practice. And we, you know, think about how much time we already spend interfacing with technology and this digisexual identity, which is that our sexual identity expression has to involve technology, and that's becoming more common amongst millennials and Gen Z. So is it that much of a stretch that in 10 or 20 years, with the technology, that these individuals might actually choose that? And part of sex positive is not judging it. If they're not hurting anyone,
why can't you judge it? Why can't?
Well, I mean,
people are like, oh my God, you can't judge anybody. It's
well,
like,
you
why
can't.
not?
Everyone
why
can
can't
judge
I
it,
just,
yeah,
you know?
you're right. But I mean, it's more about judging yourself. It's more about not letting people's judgment affect your choices as long as it feels right for you.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care what people do. But honestly, if they're looking to have I don't know, in interpersonal relationships and connecting with people, I think getting close to their doll is not going
Yeah.
to help them. But it's interesting.
Well,
It's
some of
better
them
than hanging
have
alone, right?
mental health problems, issues with
Yeah.
like social isolation, issues with communicating, like, you know, people are messed up. There's a lot of stuff going on in our mental health. We're all kind of struggling in different ways, and we don't have enough of a dialogue in our culture to talk about mental health. So we don't know what other people are going through.
I
So
gotta
this
tell
kind
you,
of helps them. Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head because everybody's like, oh, be there for somebody and call it on somebody. It's like,
You don't know.
really? Half the time people really don't. They'll tell you
Yeah.
to do it and then nobody's really checking in to see how you're doing. I
And
agree with
A
you.
lot of the time, people don't show what they're going through on the inside too. So it's
There's no doubt. I mean, who really does or can? You show up
hard.
all depressed or sad all the time, then nobody's going to want to talk to. I get it. So
Yeah.
I'm with you. I
But
understand
I
what
think
you're
you
saying.
have to. One of my tips are in the book for building sex positive relationships,
Mm-hmm.
which is relationships where you support each other's expression and the way that you go about things, is that you have to give people the chance to reject you before you just write them off and don't share. In other words,
Interesting. You're right.
You know
Just
what I mean? Like,
maybe build a little bit of look, you're going to get rejected.
yeah,
Keep
but
trying.
if they
right?
do reject you, like you. Often in our minds, we don't want to tell people the truth about how we feel because we're afraid that they'll reject us. But by doing so, we're actually doing them a disservice because we're not being honest in the relationship. So by showing them, if they do reject you, then at least you know, like, you tried and you were honest and you're setting the right example for other people to also be honest about themselves.
Is it like, when you talk about sexuality, right? I mean, a lot of people I know who are single, they just kind of still want just to have a sexual experience physically.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I am convinced that people still want and need to have a relationship and for it to go a little further. And women in particular, I think, often will say, no, I don't really need that. And then they'll get close to the guy that they're sleeping with because I believe that our hormones even design us that way, right? And then they get close, the guy doesn't want to get close, and then, we know what happens.
It's an interesting question about nature and nurture, right? Like, if this is our intrinsic, people would say, well, we're supposed to commit because we're supposed to be mothers and nurturers, or if it's programming from a society that tells us to internalize these norms and believe it.
I don't know because I know I'm that. I can only use myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm someone who really likes to connect with a person. I was never that person in college where all my friends are running around. I'm thinking, why? I want to know the person.
Yep.
I would almost feel weird, but I may even be alone in that. Am I or no?
I don't think so. I think no. That the individual differences about relating is also what makes this great, which is that, and you fluctuate throughout your lives, and the past experiences that we've had will inform kind of where we're going to.
I'll tell you what, Kelly. You said something earlier. It's true. I mean, just there's something there for everybody. It's not wrong and it's not right. I mean, it's just it's not.
Exactly. And we don't always have to know what we want. Sometimes knowing what you don't want is even better because then at least you can kind of figure out, like, what do you want? I don't know, but I can tell you what kind of relationship. I don't want to be with a narcissist. You know what I mean?
They're hard to pick out, though. Come on.
Well, especially if you're empathic. I know that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
I feel like that's a whole nother book.
How do you pick those people out? I mean,
My
that's
goodness.
tough.
I mean, well, there's certain personality traits, but even then, it's still really hard to diagnose, even for psychologists, and extremely hard to treat. Yeah, so it's a really tough one.
You talk about in the book some of your own physical struggles. You've had a hysterectomy. You want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, and I think it goes perfectly to what you were just talking about too, about like being a woman, and I'm a woman, and these are my hormones. Well, I can't have kids at 30. I was very, very sick. I had uterine fibroids my whole life. It was unexplainable, and when that uterus came out, I almost died. It was really an intense experience, but what it taught me was that I'm no less of a woman without my uterus. If anything, it's made me feel more like myself. And I had really great health care. It was just factors beyond your control that don't make sense. And that's the thing about our health. We think we know things until we get sick. And then we realize that we really don't know shit.
Yeah, but that experience,
yes,
sort of made you feel, if you will, like maybe less attractive, less whatever, because part of your female parts were gone.
And it
Am I
changed,
right?
well, and I gained a bunch of weight. Like, I gained like 30 pounds in 2 months, and my hormones were insane, and my face broke out. Like, I went through early menopause, and even now I'm like 37 and still in menopause, And so that was something that I didn't think I'd have to deal with for at least another, I don't know, 10 years or 15 years, maybe more. So having to deal with that, and like I have hot flashes, and like, you know, I'm bitchy. So, you know,
That's me every day.
which is like kind of like, I feel like I was always like that, but it just seems to be, you know, extended. So having that dialogue with my partner, like, hey, I'm going through this hormonal stuff. And he's been there for me the entire time. He's my primary partner. We do have an open relationship. And
I was going to say
wanted to bring that up.
primary.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Man,
Yeah.
I asked for that, and he's like, what are you, crazy? I mean, I'm kind of
Why?
half kidding, but no, he's about as traditional as they come. Tony knows who I'm talking about. He's like, nope. I don't understand why that's a problem, but in a way, I guess I do, because people would be like, I don't know, they'd probably run off and fall in love with somebody else, and the other guys.
Okay, but see, that's all right. I just want to say that because that's what everyone's biggest complaint is. And check this out: if someone's gonna fall in love with someone, they're gonna do it whether or not you give them permission to go run off and fall. Like, you don't own them. That's we forget that. It's kind of like a head fuck.
I think open relationships would be healthy. Because
well, for some people, again, it's that sex positive. For some people, monogamy works, and for some people, consensual non-monogamy works.
But I like that consensual. You're
consensual
coming back
non-monogamy.
To that again. You have certain rules, if you will, that you don't delineate from, and that's one of them. Consent. Whatever that consent
everything
is,
has to be consent.
Yeah, whatever the consent is, that, and then feeling good about whatever your choices are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's many different types. When we say non-monogamy, we think cheating. That's usually what people think. And that's consensual non-monogamy is monogamy. It's a relationship where both partners have other partners that they are aware of and consent to. So it's not hiding, it's not lying. It's actually just letting people know, your partner know. Like, and this is, I talk more in the book about all the different types of this and polyamory and stuff like that, and kind of how to deal with it and some examples of situations where it would arise.
What about jealousy?
Well, that's obviously the big question.
That's like major.
Yeah, but I get really turned on watching my partner have sex with other people, and he feels the same way. Hi, Jimmy. And he actually he loves it. And so do I. And I think it's the way in the poly community, it's something called compersion. I know, I'm just being honest. Something called compersion, which is compersion is the opposite of jealousy. So instead of being jealous, you're actually turned on by your partner enjoying themselves with someone else because you want them to be happy. And I can accept, I can't do everything for him, just like he can't do everything for me. And part of the reason why traditional marriages and relationships fall apart is because there's so much pressure to be someone's everything, I believe. You have to do everything. And
that is true.
Yeah.
Partnerships develop for many, many different reasons.
Exactly.
Perhaps you had your career in common, or it was like lust from first sight, but that's something that'll start to die off after a while, right?
Yeah.
If that's all you have in common.
And
I agree.
Even in, there's, and I talk about this research in the book, one of the largest studies of people who were in open relationships was ever done in the U.S., I think 2 years ago, and they found that people had more sex with their secondary partners, but they were happier with their primary partners when they were having sex with someone else. So
it's like it's like the French way. You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah. Maybe
honest to God, it's apparently this is how these people live, how they stay married and they have partners on the side and everybody knows about it. They're all okay, but they stay married anyway for the sake of the family. It's like, okay.
I mean, again, whatever works, for sex positive. I mean, something else that we're finding now it is within the millennials too, is this idea of the power couple, the Jay-Z, we call it the Jay-Z Beyonce effect. So
they look miserable. I'm sorry.
Oh, really? That makes me sad because they're both such stars, right? They're both stars on their own. So by them being together, that's what a lot of people are looking for now in relationships. They want to be with someone who's as successful as they're going to be, who pushes them, so you're together, but you have this independence that you don't need each other.
That I like. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the big thing: power couple or bust.
Well, let's face it. It used to be so different, even before the boomers, right? Mom, if you will, if you're married, stayed home. She didn't have a choice in anything. Yeah. And then the boomers came around, and I think they were like the hippie generation early on, right? And then they turned into boomers, if I'm not mistaken. The whole Woodstock thing, free love, free everything, and they ended up like yuppies and boomers and all that, and more traditional, right?
Yeah.
And I think millennials just looked at all that stuff. I know there's a generation in between that, and we're like, screw that, we could do and be who we want as long as there is consent.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a chaotic world we live in now. There's a lot of stimuli that we didn't ever have before, and that's what I was kind of contributing to being on that cusp. When I was graduating from high school, it was I just got a phone. I still had really crappy internet. It was everything still happened in person. And you're still waiting at the phone to talk to someone. And now where it's gone since then is almost unbelievable. It's so staggering. It's shocking. it's shocking. So there's just it adds a lot more stimuli and competition and chaos and confusion to the mix, and it's something that we need to address. And our way of addressing it is by saying, screw this, I'm just going to do it how I want to do it.
I mean, isn't that the way that people did it? Apparently. I mean, I studied art history and I studied a lot in the Greek culture and the Roman. Wasn't it more like that then? A little more fluid in terms of partners? And,
I mean,
no?
for men more than women.
Ah.
It was still very patriarchal, my understanding. I mean, obviously I wasn't there. But from what I read, I mean, the men often took younger male lovers and even boys that they would kind of train up and teach in the political sphere. And then they also had concubines or like females, but their wives, like, they would only have sex with to procreate. You know, it was like the women's been getting kind of a raw end of the deal. Like, they couldn't do anything like that. But again, it depends on who you ask. I mean, look at the ancient city of Pompeii. Just dicks. Dicks everywhere. You know, dicks on the walls, dicks on the, you know, you've heard the story, right? It got destroyed by a volcano in like the year 280 or something, and it remained buried for hundreds.
No, I know it.
Yeah.
I've been there many times.
Oh, okay, you've been there, yeah. So
but I don't remember seeing a bunch of dicks
there's
on the
a bunch
wall.
of dicks. Yeah.
What did I
really?
miss?
You missed the dicks and all the murals. They had even like the you know, there's like the order forms for the brothrothals, and they had pictures of all the different sex
I
acts.
need to get back there. You know,
You
my
went
family,
on the wrong tour, girl.
No, my family, my roots, my Italian roots, are all originally from that area. Not even 45 minutes from Pompeii.
Oh, okay.
I've been there numerous times. I have never seen the dicks on the
Wow.
wall. I may be going this summer. It's the first thing I'm going to go look for.
Please look for the dicks.
Dicks on the wall in
Dicks
Pompeii.
on the wall, dicks on the ground, like the brothels, all the
Wow.
frescoes of all the sex acts. Yeah. Yeah, and it was preserved. So I don't need to lecture you about
Oh,
Pompeii.
I think Pompeii
you know.
is outstanding. But what a
It's-
great...
I've never been there. I've just seen the videos of the dicks.
Wow. It's an incredible beach
It's like
community
the
with very
original-
affluent people. And I think Tony's
Oh,
looking for
wow.
some dick pics from Pompeii.
Please do, yeah. But yeah, seriously. Dick pics. The original dick pics were the dudes in Pompeii.
So
AD2.
basically, you know, to sum up what you're writing here in this book, it's a
Yeah.
great read, by the way. It's
Thank
not
you.
just about, you know, it really dives into the social, you know, spiritual mind.
Oh yeah, I am very spiritual too. I don't think it's mutually exclusive.
No, it's
with
not.
technology.
It's not. And also just the differences. But do you think millennials have it for the better or have it for the worse?
Oh, I think you can't. I think it's everything. It's the best of times. It was the worst of times. You know, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I know, men and women, are just having a tough time finding. They want a partner.
It's hard.
And
to find a
sometimes it's
partner.
really hard. You know, they're working in these big, giant buildings and stuck in offices. And if they're lucky, they meet somebody in the elevator.
It's
And that's why
true.
they're still on the apps.
It's
but then,
hard.
you know.
So my advice for that is like
Yeah.
meetups. You know, meetups. It's like they have
Yeah.
it in Denver. So you can go online and you can find places where you can actually meet people in real life that have similar interests.
Yeah,
like
whether
anything.
it's hiking. I've done that too.
Yeah.
I think somebody saw that on my phone. They're like, what's that? I'm like, I like to hike.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
And
so
it's,
you
they have
actually
everything.
can talk to people in real life too. So there's like sexy singles over 55 and lesbian meetup and people who like Magic the Gathering. Like you can literally pick any topic and it's out there. So that's a good way to like actually connect face to face, because even some of these studies that I had, 13% of college students on the apps, on the dating apps, were on there for entertainment and ego boost.
Right.
So they're not even trying to find love. They're just there to mess around. And like if you're really trying to find love, you're exposing yourself to just getting ghosted, or, you know, people not being honest with you, getting catfish, you know.
Ghosted is one of the most awful things. Whether a friend does it or
It's
a
the
partner
worst.
does it, it's horrible. In fact, you even talk about that in the book.
I
It's called
do.
Dick Moves,
Dick
right?
moves, yeah. No dissing to the dick either. just to
No,
be
that's not
clear.
cool, right? You talk about ghosting,
Mhm.
using sex for influence. I have known people who have done that, and it's usually, from what I've seen, the men are doing that to find, you know, having a woman maybe fall for them and fall in love with them, and they just wanted her
Yeah.
for influence, jealousy,
And it's
to
not
make
to
somebody
say,
jealous.
It's not to say that, I really want to be clear that all of these existed before the internet. It's just that the internet has kind of maximized our ability to engage
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in them because of its anonymity. But I mean, people have been doing these dick moves. People have been ghosting and using each other
Oh,
for
it's
a long
awful.
time.
I actually think that's one of the hardest. Yeah, it's
It
disgusting.
is. And so again, my advice is to just remember, like, people deserve respect. We're human beings. We're not trash. We're not objects. Like, we put our importance on the wrong stuff, and really we need to be having compassion for each other. We're all going through this together in a difficult time, and if you practice that kindness, you know, I believe that it will kind of weed out the energy of the people that are not practicing that kindness. And you know, maybe that's like spiritual hoo-ha, but you know.
And watch out for the narcissists, because they're tough to spot, right? That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I'm doing a workshop in New York next week at Caveat called Sex and Your Ex, or X positive, as I like to call it, And I think, and we're going to talk about that, is like, how do we learn from our past mistakes so that we can still have great sex positive relationships? But what are the signs that if we're going down a learned behavior pattern? Because often we seek out the same bad relationship over and over until we kind of learn where the trigger is coming from.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little workshop about that to try to help people for Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah. And in fact, this, everybody, is a great pickup for Valentine's Day. Please, Sex Positive. It's very interesting. It's a fun read. And you'll find yourself in almost any chapter, right? Because
there's all kinds of stuff in there. It's a very broad survey of human sexuality right now in the digital age. And, I take a pretty academic approach and psychological, sociological approach.
Steeped in research, absolutely.
Yeah, but it's fun. But there's some topics to make you think,
Yeah. Anything else you want to say to our readers? How they can find your book?
Oh, yeah.
How they can find you, please.
Sexpositivebook.com is my website, and that has information on pre-ordering the book as well as little tidbits about where I'm going to be on this tour that is just started today in LA.
Yeah, and if you have any questions for her, I'm sure on social media.
So Dr. Kelly Neff across just at DrKellyNeff across all my socials, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Do you answer most of your social?
I do actually. Yeah, I'll respond to you if you comment or send me a message. I'll respond, and if you're trolling me, I might really respond too because
I love that.
I'm not really afraid of any of that. It's what I'm trying to get away from. So of course it's happening. This, again, like I said, these.
Isn't it true?
There's no way. Yeah.
Anyway, I've really enjoyed you, and I love the book.
Thank you.
I'm serious, you people. I think it's a great Valentine gift. You guys can look through it together, right?
Yeah,
Sex
there you
positive.
go.
I really
There
mean
you
it. Sometimes my husband and I will flip through stuff at night together.
Yeah,
and,
totally.
I'm going to leave this on his pillow. I'm just going to leave it there and have him go, wait, what are you trying to say now, Deborah? Anyway, thanks so much for being here. Dr. Kelly Neff, Sex Positive. And thanks, everybody, for being here. Deborah Kobylt Live. We hope you're having a good week, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.